everybody, it's Brian back with Inspiring How You See That. We're the channel that talks about all different kinds of music and entertainment, brings you inspirational stories, and interviews some of your favorite artists. Today, I'm very pumped to bring our good buddy Matt Sassano back. And Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, man, greetings from Knoxville. It's good to be here, man. Like I said, you were one of my first interviews when I started, and so things have come full circle, and I'm glad to be back on with you guys, man.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure to have you back. We really enjoyed, talking to you then and then becoming good friends with you since then. So watching your career take off, man, we've been really proud of you and seeing everything that you've been doing. And, that's kind of where I wanted to pick up. We talked a couple years ago at Kingdom Come Festival. Since then, you've been having a lot of music. You've been doing a lot, man. Kind of tell us, from your point of view, what you've been up to.
Yeah, man, it's just been a great, trajectory these past couple years. I came in contact with Joseph Rojas of Seventh Day Slumber, and, after he got to know me, he's really enjoyed my message and music. So for the last couple years, been signed with Rockfest Records, and we did a lot of touring with them. I think this is now my fourth tour with Seventh Day Slumber.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of prison outreaches. That was one of the things that we really liked from. Yeah. So not long ago, I just got back from a prison outreach and stuff like that, and there was a variety of just special speakers. There was musicians teamed up with multi-genres and stuff like that, and so that's always interesting. There's always, a variety of different crowds and people that I get to meet. So it's really been amazing and hard work, but really awesome. Can't complain.
Nice. Now, is there something specific about prison ministry that the Lord has put on your heart that?
Like I said, my first tour with Seventh Day Slumber, I was introduced to this organization called Prison Fellowship, and they go in and we go into maximum security prisons and perform for the inmates. And there's also a variety of just different things that we do. There's a thing called Angel Tree, I think it is, where they help the inmates give Christmas gifts to their kids while they're in prisons and stuff. And so there's so many different, that's kind of what strikes me about it, is that it's just kind of one of those opportunities where you really feel useful and you really feel like you're making a difference. I remember, it's kind of scary in a weird way, going in there, and then you hear these stories of people, and they'll just pour their heart out to you after a show. I had a guy say, I got off the stage, it's kind of a bare bones kind of set, but he came up to me after the show, kind of huddled in close, and he's like, "Hey man, I want to say, I've killed a lot of people." And the first half of that sentence was really intimidating, but when he said, "But you touched me tonight and you really made a difference in my life," that's when I was like, oh my gosh, here's some hardened person that comes in there not really expecting any sort of hopeful message. He's probably stuck in a situation he definitely doesn't want to be in, and then to hear that you've made a difference, and then you're walking away from that, giving somebody that probably doesn't have much hope in their situation some hope is really cool.
That's awesome. It goes back to what the Lord said, when I was in prison, you visited me, and what you do for the least of these, you do for me. And that's, that's what we're here for, is to serve him and to reach people and let everyone know about his love.
Yeah, man, I've really enjoyed that, and just so many different aspects that I've got to do these last couple years and stuff like that. I'll be, like I said, on the 13th, going to be doing some more regular shows with the Protest. On the 13th, I'll be in Urbana, Ohio, and so this will be one of those shows that's just uniting old friends and stuff like that. That's another thing that I just really love about these last couple years, these bands that I kind of grew up listening to, and getting to meet on the scene is really cool to get to meet them behind the scenes and see what they're like.
Sure.
And so, yeah, it's just been a really amazing ride. And like I said, you guys were kind of the first to kind of discover me in the interview space. I remember our very first interview with KTF. I had not done a lot of like camera interviews, so in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, dude, I hope I do okay. And here we are, like I said, years later, and you guys have really grown yourselves. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love how, this whole scene is kind of like a big family in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you make lifelong friends, and like you said, I remember back when it was you and your mom, and we interviewed you, and you guys did a great job, and
Yeah.
and we were still learning. We didn't have the mics like we do now. We were still learning how to set things up, and
yeah, man, it's definitely a process, but I'm always on your page and checking things out, and it seems like you guys have really continued to fly and everything. I'm glad for that, like I said. And I did the most rock star thing I could, bring my mom on my first interview. And so now she's not here, I feel more, I feel more secure. I'm good.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah, thank you so much for having me on again, man.
Absolutely. And likewise, I mean, you've been growing like we talked about. I mean, want to talk about some of the songs that have come out since we did our last interview. So I'm thinking, Dear God, that song was awesome. I mean, just the power behind that message and the emotion that you sang with. Did you, and I can imagine you reached back into your past and probably times where you were crying out, and that's what came out. So kind of walk us through the writing of that song.
Absolutely. So, okay, not too many people know this, but that song was actually a updated version of a song that I did 10 years ago. Okay, so I was in a band, when I started music, I was in a band called Transparent. And I was a little local, small town, little band, nothing really, like kind of still working my way up in the ranks. But we released a kind of like a 12-track album. And Dear God was one of the standout tracks that I did. I wrote all the lyrics and most of the instrumentation. So that song was like a version of it. I took the song back in studio 10 years later with Josiah, because I was like, dude, this is one of those that just really is central to my life. This is a song that really speaks volumes about what I've come through, because as you saw in the video, it's based on a time when I was going through my depression, when I was going through domestic abuse issues with my father, and just trying to really question what my purpose in life was. A lot of times I felt trapped and isolated, and so how I would clear my mind and kind of like make things, make sense in a way, was to write letters to God to vent my frustrations, because, I lived in a lot of isolation and stuff like that. And so in the Dear God video, you see that depicted. I'm in this dark kind of dreary room, and I'm writing letters, and then there's flashbacks of like, primarily the relationship that I had with my father, where it was like, very rough upbringing and abuse going on for many years. And so that was a song that kind of stuck with me for 10 years. And I was like, we just can't lose this. And I'm glad that it kind of finally saw the light of day once I brought it to Josiah and, all that. But that's definitely one of those that I always get people at live shows saying it really mattered to them. And one person specifically was saying that they had lost their mom this past year, and Dear God was the song that helped them get through. So I was really glad to hear it.
Yeah.
About that.
That's got to be a special feeling to know that something you created meant that much to someone.
Yeah, man, it's just crazy. Like, I get a lot of messages on social media just how much, the songs mean to somebody. And it's weird because as a songwriter, where you were when you wrote that song, or like, I was just like sitting in my bedroom, hanging out, sitting in my bedroom, and nothing special. It's just like one of the things that you just write in the privacy of your own bedroom, just hanging out, can go on and like get somebody through the death of their own mom. It's like, it's just unbelievable. And that's kind of the power of music, man. It's just amazing.
Absolutely. Nice. And you had mentioned, that your father was, to put it mildly, was not a great father. But you've been blessed with a man that came into you and your mom's life. So kind of give him a plug and kind of the opposite of what you knew before.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So my stepfather, Steve, his road name is Sensei Steve. Joseph. Joseph.
We met him. He's awesome.
And he's just always been behind me. He's known me from a very, very young age. And I remember when I was going through a lot of the abuse and stuff like that, he was one of the people that we turned to, and kind of he helped, like, because at the time we just didn't know how to. We were very, private in how we put it, but he was one of the people that came to bat for me. Sure. And really, helped me through that dark time. And now, and if it wasn't for him, I don't even think I'd probably be here, because I remember my very first band project that I ever did. It was right after my parents had divorced, and I was hanging out with Steve, and he was like, "Hey man, you got a lot to say. I know I've known you for many years. You're very talented in songwriting. Like, why don't you just start a band and I'll manage it?" And, and the rest is kind of history. Like, it's crazy how that happened. He probably, we probably just expected it to last maybe a good couple months or whatever. But he was like, "Hey man, like, you start a band, you write the songs, I'll manage it." And we were just kind of on a road trip when that came up. And next thing you know, here I am through the evolution of 3 different band projects later, and he's still here on, 7-day slumber tours because I can't drive with my disabilities, driving me around, sure, helping me unload my merch, and just really making sure that I'm taken care of on the road. So, yeah, like I said, it's definitely come full circle, and I'm glad to have somebody like that in my life now.
Nice. And you had mentioned that you have cerebral palsy, and that's something that throughout your life you've dealt with, and as a kid you had dealt with some bullying because of that.
Oh yeah.
And I love the song "Not My Name" because you kind of took that and you turned around, made it almost an anthem for kids that are going through that.
Yeah.
And I think that was beautiful that you were able to give that to kids. It's like, hey, you're not alone in this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think it was one of those songs where, I really had no example to really follow, because it was one of the more challenging songs to write, because I'm like, how do I write something that's about people with disabilities that maybe like the general public would want to listen to? And I just remember like the sentiment in my mind was like, a lot of my life was about trying to not be labeled, and not like, I spent so much of my life like uncomfortable in my own skin, worried about, just what people would think. And oftentimes, like, when I think about the labels people put on me, that was the biggest thing that really bothered me. And so and you see it like all the time with people with disabilities. You sure, hear like, "Oh, that's the blind kid, that's this kid," like, and
like that's the only thing that defines that person. Like, no.
Yeah, exactly. I understand like why it's a standout quality, but at the same time, like, if that's your only look at that person, you're missing a whole bunch. And so, like, I always had a pretty good sense of humor about things, but at the same time, like, was kind of deeply insecure. And so Not Sure. My Name came out of just that whole thing about, like, that's not the only thing that defines you, man. You have a purpose, you have a plan. And unfortunately for us, with people with disabilities, that purpose and plan sometimes takes way longer to discover. It's definitely not like an easy road. And I wish it was just like in my life where I could just snap my fingers and all that. It's going to be a fight. But like I said, I think that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm just so glad that like this actually started a conversation surrounding a group that really doesn't get a lot of attention or conversations about disabled people, so.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, yeah.
Another song you've done with Korth was with Azaria, and it's "Sorry's a Dirty Word." So, kind of walk us through, how you guys met, and obviously you've developed a relationship that's been beautiful to see. How'd that song come about for the two of you?
So, okay, we had been talking for a series of just different months, and I really enjoyed. She was in a band called Azariah, and I had listened to her and just really liked the quality of her voice and all this kind of stuff. We had been talking, and a variety of different conversations had come up, and I had been working on the song "Sorry Is a Dirty Word" before the collaboration kind of happened. But the deeper we got into conversation, I learned that she had similar types of situations in her family situation where there was a lot of just different like hurt and in a way betrayal. And so while I was writing the song, it just seemed like a perfect collaboration to put her on. It wasn't even like a predetermined move. I was actually writing something about my situation, and we had been talking, and I was like, well, dude, like, it sounds like you have such a similar situation. Why don't I just put you on this song? And so it fit like a glove, and we went in, and that was kind of the last and final song we decided to record for the In Defiance EP. But it was just such a great thing, because the thing about collabs, it's great to have a great singer on. It's great to have people that, like, you know, are talented. But when you can get somebody that really connects with the message that you're putting forth, I think that comes across in the recording. I think that comes across in so many different ways. And so that's what's so unique and special about that song, is that it just couldn't have worked out any better. And that song was also, I think, nominated at one point for the Grizzly Award for Collaboration of the Year. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. And you mentioned the Grizzly Awards, and I gotta say, congratulations, man! You won the Fans' Choice Award. That had to feel incredible.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was just an amazing thing to watch. Like I said, like, I am just a normal kid from Canisteo, New York. Like, there was no inkling that I'd be in Tennessee and winning an award with all these people. Like I said, it's just shocking to me that, you know, I still never get over it, that I'm from the smallest town you could imagine, you know, and there is definitely nothing really going on music related. I used to sit around and watch, like, you know, videos from Fireflight and videos from 7 Day Slumber, and to be, and Disciple, of course, obviously, and to be on that award show and saying, like, you know, I've won the Fan Choice Awards was just the weirdest feeling in the world, man.
It's like me?
So, yeah, I'm like, what? Like, and so, yeah, it was really cool, but they do their best to put on a great show every year, and I love it. Like I said to you before, like, this scene is kind of like a giant family. Everybody kind of knows everybody, and so it's awesome to see an award show that really just, you know, has artists and musicians that music, like, prioritize the message and the music and stuff. There's a lot of trash out there that, you know, people could be listening to, but you know, I'm glad that there's still a hunger for this type of music.
Exactly. And like I said, it really is beautiful. Like we talked about before we even came on with Kingdom Come Festival. And so, you know, we've made lifelong friends with you, with other artists, that it's like, you know, Kevin and I, we're just guys with a camera, but you guys make us feel like we're part of it. And that's such a special feeling, you know, and it's like you have those people for life. And I've never experienced anything like that outside of this community.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, you definitely are part of it. Like, this is the new era of, you know, this is how music gets out there. You know what I mean? The big record companies and all that. It's a lot of this stuff is like grassroots online stuff. So you guys are hugely important to what we do, and you know, I really appreciate you for what you do. And when I heard, you know, that I was going to be on again, I was like, this is going to be fun.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, man, thank you guys for your work. I mean, you guys really travel a long way to see all these bands and participate in the concerts. And, you know, if it weren't for things like Inspiring How You See That, you know, we wouldn't get the press that we, you know, we need. We work really hard. And so it's great to see you guys pouring into what we do.
Thank you, man. We appreciate that. Now, honestly, we don't look at it as work at all, because it's what we love to do. We get to meet awesome people and hear great music, so we can't help it. We want to tell people about it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I've really enjoyed a lot of your content. So, and I even told people, if you're looking for content, to subscribe to the YouTube channel. So you can put this in the video short. Everybody subscribe.
Thank you.
You know, I know how important that is these days, man. But yeah, you guys have made a huge difference. So thanks.
Thank you. And thank you for helping us get there. I mean, without a doubt, you know, you and other artists like you, we wouldn't be able to do what we are without you guys. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah,
but how
absolutely.
are you? So you mentioned a couple of times, you know, growing up in New York, now you're in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
How are you liking being in Tennessee?
Dude, I actually really love it. Like, I mean, I do miss some of the aspects of upstate New York, but
the less humidity.
Yeah, I thought like I would eventually get that like Texas or Tennessee draw, you know, but I don't think that that's very. But yeah, I always liked it here. I always thought it was really cool. It wasn't our initial plan to even move and everything like that. But we years ago came in contact with a producer named Travis Wyrick, and he was producing some of my first projects, and that's how we kind of discovered upon Tennessee. And like I said, there's just always something to do here, minus, you know, maybe 2020 when the COVID era was going on. But like,
right.
I don't know, I just always enjoy it. There's Dollywood, there's all sorts of stuff to do when you're not touring. And so I recommend it. I've been telling you guys, come on down. We'll have a little, you know, steak get together, hang out, and all that. But yeah, I've loved Tennessee so far, and the people here are really supportive. But I actually went not long ago, like maybe a few weeks ago, to do a hometown show in my hometown of upstate New York. So it was cool to kind of have that come full circle and, you know, go back to my roots in the old church that I was raised in, and had a bunch of people that I hadn't seen for 20 years come down and rock with me, and like just it was a really cool experience.
Sure, so that'd be special.
And I took the stage and I tried to shock everybody. I tried to, you know, I was like, "Hey y'all, how you doing?" And like pretended like I had a Tennessee accent for a minute. I was like, "Just kidding," you know. But it was a great time. But overall, really loved Tennessee, and you know, love segments of people in my old hometown in New York. And really excited just for what's to come, dude.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And you were telling us a little bit before we came on that you've actually recently been in Nashville doing some recording. So you got some new music coming soon for us?
Absolutely, man. So I'm collaborating with the Rockfest team once again. And yeah, we're going to be releasing at least 2 new singles. One within this the next release is going to be called Fuel, and I've not said anything about like what the title is or anything, except for maybe with you and with one other show. So the new song's called Fuel. Really excited to get it out there, and I think if you like the last stuff on In Defiance, or maybe if you're just coming in new, check it out, dude. It's really good stuff. We poured our heart and soul into this single, and I'm really excited to hear what people's reaction is.
Absolutely. Do you have a time frame on, like, are you working on a new album? Or are you just going to release them as singles, or?
Right now, I think we're just doing the singles. As much as I like doing the album, it's kind of a new age in music, unless you're, you know, when you're at my kind of trajectory and level. What I learned really quickly from the old days, and now with this era of Spotify, is if you put out a whole album, people blow through it in in an hour, and then they're like, what's next, man? So it's really crazy to, you know, with the singles, you can kind of make them last a little bit longer. And people don't realize when you put out full albums, I mean, it works for some people, but spending like a year to 2 years on something that people will listen to in one afternoon, and then they're like, dude, what are you doing? It's like, I just spent a fortune on this album. So we're taking it slow. I like the whole quality over quantity type of thing. And I think if you like the last stuff on In Defiance, you'll really, really enjoy this stuff. It's still got that kind of same overcoming message and all that. And so I'm super excited to hear what people think about it. Like I said, hitting the studio with Josiah again was just a really cool experience. And we even had to talk about, like, how do we create something fresh and new, but give people that liked your old stuff something that they feel familiar with. And so I'm really pumped up
Nice. And I
Yeah.
should tell fans, if you haven't seen Matt live, now we talked, a couple of the songs have been some of your, I'll say like deeper, slower, sadder songs, but he can rock out too, man. I mean, you've got some heavy hitting rock going on, and you guys got to
Yeah.
see him live.
Yeah, man. I enjoy all styles. I definitely love to get in there and rock out. I think for this new single, Fuel, it's definitely one of those songs that has like a cinematic edge. It hits a little bit
Okay.
hard, but it's very highly anthemic. And the kind of the theme of the song is the dark things that happen to you don't necessarily have to be your end. You know, I think we're living in an age where a lot of people have a victim mentality. The more victimized you can be, the more brownie points you kind of get.
Yep.
And I just wanted to say that like the things that you've gone through don't necessarily have to destroy you. That they can also be the fuel that gets you to where you are. You know.
Awesome.
And that's kind of the overarching theme of that single. And really excited about it.
That's fantastic, because God didn't call us to be victims.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I just look at my life and I'm like, a lot of people ask, like, if you could kind of take away the bad things in your life, would you? If you could, like, just wipe away everything. And as much as I don't think I would want to do everything over again,
Sure.
I don't think I would be the musician or the person that I am with the empathy that I have to really reach the people that I'm reaching. And so, while a lot of things are really terrible and awful, they also craft who you become. Like
Yep.
kind of what inspired this single was the fact that I had mentioned I was in an old band called Transparent, right? And we were kind of a small town band, and I had befriended one of the guitar players of that band, and we had, started the band together and all that stuff. Well, like a year later, he had gotten into some legal trouble and really was just, facing some really hot water. And so being kind and compassionate, we kind of let him in. And under the guise that he would, straighten up, do his work and just get rehabilitated and all that kind of stuff. Well, what had happened was during the course of this time, him and my girlfriend of 2 years ended up cheating on me with each other.
Man.
And so that had a huge recourse on my life. I felt devastated. I was crushed. I was just like, I can't believe this happened. Like, just the feeling of what it felt like to just know that you were trying to help somebody and then they betray you in that way.
Yeah.
Ultimately resulted in a band breakup and losing somebody I considered a friend and somebody I invested 2 years in.
Yeah.
And I look back at that moment and it did crush me. I didn't know if there was going to be a way out of it. But ultimately what happened was it motivated me and my family to just go, let's start from scratch and let's move to Tennessee. Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
So as I look back, 7 years, whatever it's been, how many years later, the thing that I thought was going to crush me and that was going to really devastate me was ultimately the key that got me to Tennessee to network with all the great people that I've networked with now.
Yep.
And so that was kind of the main inspiration piece for this particular single.
Okay.
Also, one other scenario that kind of came to mind was when I was a kid, I struggled a lot with depression, and a result of that was like self-harm. I ended up, cutting myself, landing myself in the adolescent psych unit. And it was one of those most lonely times in my life. Like, I had a church full of people that, for whatever reason, just refused to come visit. And I just felt really isolated and alone. And I look back on that time in my life, and a few years after that, was really shocked when I became like a mental health aide in the very same psych ward that I was admitted to years before. And so during that time, it just gave me the empathy that I needed. And I found myself kind of like going from a guy who was cutting and suffering and all these kinds of things to a person who was in the psych ward helping people and like hearing about their situations and not only saying like, oh, I get like, I feel for you, but like I have been where you are.
Yeah.
And so Fuel is all about that. It's all about the things that happen to you that is terrible in your life that you think maybe there's no way out. Maybe God is, crafting you into who he needs you to be. And oftentimes that comes through tough love. Like,
Yeah.
we need to hear it at the time. And I know that there's that old, like, saying, there is no testimony without the test.
True.
And so that's really what the message behind this song is. I really hope people enjoy it. And like I said, don't take on that victim mentality because you never know. Like, the destination that God has you on is like the journey that God has you on is not, at its end yet. And I always hated to hear that when I was going through it. Like, I always hated to hear that because I'm like, okay, well, when, but like now as I grow older, it like, if you continue to work hard, you continue to put God first, you continue to just continue to keep up the fight. Even now in my life, like, the music industry is not an easy thing, but we continue to fight. We continue to get up. We continue to try to use all the hardships and the things that we encounter to get stronger. And so,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as you're talking, I kept being reminded of what the Lord says: all good things work, or all things work for good for those who love the Lord. And that's even those things that seem horrible in the moment. It's like we don't see what he's doing and what he can see.
Absolutely, man. And it's kind of funny that you bring up that scripture because as I was writing the song, that was one of two scriptures that came to mind in the writing of this song. So there was that one, and then there was no weapon formed against me shall prosper.
Yeah.
And so I'll give a little lyric lines for it just for fun. Like, the first verse starts off and it says, you're about to hear something I never thought I would say. Thanks for the misery and the scars I can't erase. Thanks for all the dirt you threw on my name. You piled it high and tried to bury me. And then it goes on to say, but you should have known when you burned me, I would rise out of the fire. You had a plan to destroy me. Instead, you took me higher. So
nice.
Yeah. So that kind of, and then it says, you are my fuel. So like, it talks about like all those things that people rile up against you and people gossip about you or drag your name through the mud or backstab you, ultimately for some people that, that is what's going to shape your testimony. That is what's going to give you the empathy that you need, or, just a certain burden. Like, why do you think I'm here, and the crux of my entire music is like disabilities or mental health? It's because I've lived that life, and I wouldn't, and I'm sure the same thing for you, it's like your ministry is crafted out of things that you've gone through, things that you've, experienced in life, and you bring those insights into what you're doing.
Yep. And it makes you stronger. So
yeah,
that's all you can do is keep pushing forward.
Hey, man, absolutely. So I'm excited. Like I said, I think it's going to be maybe a September release.
Okay.
We're still kind of early with that release. We're still trying to coordinate with the Rockfest team and see what's best. But yeah, really hoping you'll check that out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we'll make sure to let you guys know whenever anything new's coming out, because we're excited to hear Fuel, hear everything else that you're coming with. And you had mentioned earlier, of course, you're touring with Seventh Day Slumber, with Magdalene Rose. Now you're going with the Protest. And so when are some of you had mentioned one coming up. What are some of the other shows that are coming up for you soon?
Okay, so like I said, the Protest one is the 13th. Don't miss that in Urbana, Ohio. We're gonna have a great time, man. And I'm just really stoked to do that again and meet with those guys. Also, I think the 25th through the 27th, I will be in Isle, Minnesota. I've never been there, but this is kind of a different kind of event for me because I am pretty much the only what you would consider rock artists on the bill. So it's going to be a lot of like CCM artists and stuff like that. I am going to taint them with rock and roll.
There you go.
I'm going to, but it's going to be a great time. There's going to be, it's a 3-day music festival, mostly kind of CCM. Danny Goki, Mark Schultz, Sanctus Real. Just a 3-day music festival in Iowa, Minnesota. And so hopefully I don't scare anybody off. I know that I have a confession to make. When I'm on the road with Seventh Day Slumber or doing my own independent shows, sometimes it's nice just to kind of clear your head of like rock and roll, your ears are ringing. So every once in a while, I will turn on K-Love and be rocking out to some people on this particular thing. So it's going to be
there you go.
Different. Yeah. I'll be like, dude, you soothe my ears whenever it gets a little too crazy. So yeah, I'm excited to meet this crowd of people and kind of break into a new, I guess you would say demographic of people, I guess, and just people that like that style of music. Because I hope they get behind it, man. I think they will. I think they will. But
I have no doubt.
I'm excited.
Nice. Well, again, Matt, thank you so much for joining us again. It's always a blessing to talk to you. We're pumped for everything that's coming up for you. Again, we'll make sure to share it with you guys. And before we go, is there anything else that you'd like to say to fans?
Hey, man, like I said, just continue to press on, to press forward. Don't live as a victim in this, victim kind of driven world. God has a plan and a purpose for you. And I know sometimes when, you're in the middle of that darkness, it's hard to have these words resonate. But just the fact that you're listening to this interview and maybe catching this message is, God's sign to you that, he hasn't given up on you, that he's got you in his sights even when you don't feel it. And, stay tuned for Fuel and other singles. And also, catch up with me on social media. I got Instagram, Facebook, all the different social medias. So I'd love to talk to anybody who, takes an interest in this music and what I'm doing.
That's awesome. And thank you again. And we'll be sure to put all the links down below so you can get a hold of Matt and it'll be easy for you. So awesome, check down there. Reach out to him, let him know that you saw through this interview. That helps us out. And, it's always great to work with you again, brother.
Hey, man, thank you so much. And keep rocking, keep locked to inspiring how you see that, man. This is awesome.
There you go. Thank you. And as always, we want to thank you guys for spending this time with us. We love you all. God bless and rock on.